Just take a look at this right here. Take a look at this. So I'm going to show you a liberal answering a question from a very, very left leaning female teacher, which is the norm, right? Because the school is basically littered with these people. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college, littered with these type of people. So they're going to be left leaning more times than not, right? So the teacher is going to ask her, the liberal woman, how do you counteract the Joe Rogan types with young men? I'm a teacher. It's pretty bad. And a question like this already shows you the mindset of most lefties. They're cuckoo. They're in La La Land. And they still can't fathom why young men are leaning right. If you think Joe Rogan is some kind of far right type person that's leading men to the like, what? Already? So right here, this is going to be, so she's going to actually answer this question, and she's actually going to answer it pretty well, and she's going to be like, well, Joe Rogan really isn't that type, and this is why we have problems in this left space and blah blah blah. So she's going to say the right thing, but she's going to come up with the wrong solution. So we're going to press play. Fair use.
I've been talking to a lot of people about this over the past week, and I think something that's really important to remember is Joe Rogan, not inherently a political guy. His podcast is not a political podcast. He was the host of Fear Factor. He's an MMA guy. He hosts a culture podcast that attracts a lot of young men, and occasionally politicians go on there. I think this is the Liz Smith approach, somebody that I worked with in 2022. Go everywhere. I think for too long, Democrats and progressives have thought that the answer is to create more democratic and progressive news outlets or accounts, and that's not true. Most people don't think about politics or parties all the time. They just don't. We need to go on podcasts and news networks and shows that have nothing to do with politics and just be ourselves and introduce people to who we are, and then occasionally inject policy positions and what we agree with so that we're not scrambling at the last minute during an election to get into those spaces. People won't trust us if we try to do that.
It's too late, miss. It's too late. It's too late. Oh, man. I got to download that soundbite from the have you ever watched Gargoyles? When they got it's like the first or second episode of Gargoyles. I don't think it was the first or second episode. Or it was one of the episodes where they showed a flashback on how the gargoyles got tricked into leaving the castle, and because they got tricked out of leaving the castle before sunlight, they turned into stone. And I remember the really older gargoyle. He was like, "We're too late." I still have his voice just ringing in my ear. Pause. But, anyways, when you see, the norm, he's talking about the Joe Rogan types. This is how you know you're dealing with somebody that can't really be reasoned with. Because anybody that knows Joe Rogan just a little bit, most of the time when I see him, he's talking about animals, actually. I used to literally, because I'm not even subscribed to his podcast, or I'll see like clips here and there, but you just know Joe Rogan as he's probably the most popular podcast type person, right? Most of the time when I see him talking, he's talking about jujitsu and animals. Like, I've seen like compilations of him talking about bears and stuff. I used to watch those. But Joe Rogan's the type of person, he doesn't shy away from people coming into his podcast from all different types of beliefs and backgrounds. He doesn't be like, okay, if you can only think my way if you want to come on my podcast. He's not that type of person. He's going to give you a platform. If you want to come on and talk, he'll let you come on. He's not going to put no restrictions on you. You know what I mean? So this is why, especially young men of today, are going to listen to what a Joe Rogan has to say. And also, Joe Rogan is actually he's more left leaning than right leaning. But this is how you know the left has gone way too far, because I remember Bill Maher, who's very liberal, right? I remember he had like an opinion on something. I don't know if it was on about the vax or the shot on the COVID-19 thing. I don't know if it was about that, but it was something about that. He had an opinion about something, and I saw all these people, these new young libtards in the comments talking about, we gotta get rid of white dudes like this far right and blah. I'm like, do you guys know who this guy is? Like, do you know who he is? This guy's like, he's literally the complete opposite of Bill O'Reilly. The complete opposite. If somebody told me, okay, who would be like the opposite of Bill O'Reilly, or who would be the opposite of Bill Maher, I would always bring these people up as the perfect examples. Complete spoils of each other. And they were in here, and they were in the comment section talking about he's far right, and he doesn't care about this and that. I'm like, what? I was like, wow. I was just like, yeah, the left has completely lost the plot, and I figured it out kind of around the 9th or 10th grade of high school, where I realized the left is really just that faction. That's just a part of that just cannot be reasoned with. They can't even be. You can't even talk to them. So right here, we're gonna hold on. We might have to replay it, and I'll try to break it down a little bit more.
I've been talking to a lot of people about this over the past week, and I think something that's really important to remember is Joe Rogan, not inherently a political guy. His podcast is not a political podcast. He was the host.
But the normies, they're going to equate Joe Rogan to they're basically the same women that say, oh, the Joe Rogan types. What she really wants to say is the Andrew Tate types. That's what she really wants to say, but she can't say it like that, so she's gonna put that on Joe Rogan. But that's what she wants. She really wants to say the Andrew Tate types, but that's gonna expose her bias on that's kind of gonna expose the commenter on how she really thinks about things. So she's not gonna say the Andrew Tate types or the Fresh and Fit types, because really, that's not really something to worry about. Those are just things that they put out there to scare the normies. So she's gonna say, the Joe Rogan types or the Fox News types. You know what I mean? That's how they disguise their obvious implicit bias.
Host of Fear Factor. He's an MMA guy. He hosts a culture podcast that attracts a lot of young men, and occasionally politicians go on there. I think this is the Liz Smith approach, somebody that I worked with in 2022. Go everywhere. I think for too long.
Well, that's going to be where she starts listing her solutions, but it's too late. If you have a whole generation of women saying that men are awful, you got literally man-hating content that gets to get monetized, misandry running rampant amongst TikTok users, female content creators on Instagram posting rage bait, you know what I mean, to trigger men, quote unquote. And I'm like, do you really think, even if they don't really feel that way, do you really think this helps? I'm like, and they're just like shocked. The stuff that I've seen women post on there, or even when people mention black men, even though many black men still voted for Kamala, I don't understand why. But when you see more black men openly leaving the left alone, going to the right, and they're just like, well, how is this happening? How is this happening? Even though we got people like Cynthia G that exists promoting what she's promoting, the divestors saying what they're saying, promoting what they're promoting, right? Basically everywhere else where I don't know what the memo is, where women can just be open misandrous and just think there's not going to be no backlash or people are not going to see this. I mean, I don't know what world they're living in, but they're just so used to not being held accountable. So this is why when they looked at the votes, whatever, and they're like, how come all these guys are right leaning? I can't believe this is happening. Right?
Democrats and progressives have thought that the answer is to create more democratic and progressive news outlets or accounts. And that's not true. Most people don't think about politics or parties all the time. They just don't. We need to go on podcasts and news networks and shows that have nothing to do with politics and just be
It's too late, man. It's too late.
Ourselves and introduce people to who we are, and then occasionally.
No, they already know who you are. You've kind of exposed who you are, which is loud, obnoxious, liars, anti-family. You've, particularly when you talk about female liberals, they have invaded all male spaces. Men have no more spaces that they can go into just for men. None. Took away video games. College is not even really for men no more. All the nerd spots where men would just young boys would just be in. Took away Boy Scouts when they were young. Men can't even have their own clubs. And I'll say this into the average American man's mind. I'm not saying in my mind. I'm saying the average American's man's mind. They blame the liberals for quote unquote taking their women in terms of taking over their minds. That's how they think. So if you're a person that, especially if you're a woman and you're coming to him like I'm a liberal, or you're a person just in general saying I'm a liberal, they're gonna look at you. They might like the average young man. He might want to smack you off GP because they in their minds, in the average young man's mind, he blames liberals for literally stealing his youth, stealing the things that he believes that is rightfully his. I'm just talking about the average American, the average young American man. That's not left leaning. That's how he sees liberals. And you can't blame nobody but yourself. It's too late for, we got to come to the table and do this. First of all, especially like I done seen, oh man, like, especially after when Orange Man got shot, right? And seeing the comments on Twitter, people say, damn, he missed, the person missed and all this stuff. I'm like, y'all, all the stuff y'all said, I'm like, now if he goes into office, he's just gonna be, there used to be a time where you could openly negotiate. Those times are over now. Those times are over. So now when she's trying to come up with a solution, talking about we need to go on every podcast and just be ourselves. Don't, man, please.
Inject policy positions and what we agree with, so that we're not scrambling at the last minute during an election to get into those spaces. People won't trust us if we try to do that.
They already don't trust you, and especially what's that boy's name? Tim Walsh, whatever that the VP that was supposed to run with Kamala. I'm saying Kamala on purpose because I know that's not how you pronounce her name. But anyways, trying to have him go on Twitch streams talking about football. Like liberals, they've lost the trust of, like, I'm talking about the average liberal, have, especially liberal politicians, they have completely lost the trust of the American public. So this whole thing about, we need to do something now, it's too late. It's like, I'm talking about way too late. So let's look at some of these comments on this subject, and we might have to do some zooming in. Right here, somebody said, newsflash, you're the problem, Cupcake, not Joe Rogan. Oh man. Shout out to this guy right here. He said they don't hate Joe, they hate the free and open exchange of ideas. To the left, there's only one acceptable ideal: facts. So on Joe Rogan's platform, all he does is he just lets the guest speak. It's literally an open exchange when you watch a Joe Rogan podcast. It's not even a political podcast. It's just, you'll have political people come on there because they like his show, and it's one of the most popular shows. Besides, like I said before, most of the times when I see Joe Rogan talk, he be talking about bears and animals and MMA and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. How Brazilian jiu-jitsu is the best thing since sliced bread. That's what he talks about. So that's why I find it. What they're gonna do next? You know what the liberal teachers are gonna complain about next? The Theo Von types. How do you counteract the Theo Von types? That's what's gonna be next. They're gonna be like the Theo Von types, and people are just literally gonna look at them like these people have lost their minds. Yeah, facts. Right here, he says Joe Rogan talks about hunting and eating elk meat and guns and MMA. Facts. These are Democrats talk about rainbow rights and baby deletion and how awful men are and how they should be ashamed of their entire bloodline. He goes, also liberals, why can't we get young men to vote for us? And this right here, comment of the video right here. Comment of the day. Comment of the day. Comment of the day. Let's keep it. That's what young men are seeing from liberals for the most part, is just them talking about rainbow stuff, baby deletion, and how awful men are. That's literally what they're hearing, and And what's crazy is a lot of liberals are really still in denial on what their party or their platform runs on, and that's literally what their party and platform promotes the most. That's all they run on. That's and what's her name, Kamala. She literally ran on nothing. She was literally running on nothing. No policy, just get a black woman in there. Nothing, no policy, no real change, and just dangling the baby deletion stuff, rights to for the normie liberals, particularly liberal women, so they can buy in. This is somebody said right here. He said, just remember, Joe Rogan is a liberal. They hate you for being a man. Facts. Because Joe Rogan is left leaning for the most part. I wouldn't say Joe Rogan is a liberal. I would say maybe he's a, because like I said, I don't watch his show OD like that. He's probably talked about his personal political beliefs, but for the most part, from what I've seen, he's left leaning. So, but he's not somebody that's just gonna shut somebody down because they think a little bit different than him. But like I said, the average, like a woman like this, right, that I just showed you, her, and I can tell she's very liberal herself. But even just saying what she said about Joe Rogan not being a political guy, the left are gonna look at her as an enemy. Believe it or not, that's how far left, like, these people are. They're not. If you don't think their way, then you're with the other side in their mind. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe, and I am out of here.